In this edition of Transworld Sport,
Uruguay's rowers are hoping to find the time to mount a challenge for big glory.
a spring morning in Carmelo in the district of Colonia in Uruguay. The under-23 national rowing team is in training with their eyes firm set on qualifying for next year's Olympic Games in London. The idyllic conditions on the waters of the Rio de la Plata offer a perfect setting for the practitioners of the sport. But Uruguayan oarsmen have had to make enormous sacrifices in order to represent their nation on the world stage. Unlike the soccer heroes of the nation's #1 sport, rowers find themselves amongst the myriad of athletes in Uruguay who struggle for funding and recognition.
Rowing has a great track record in Uruguay. We are still winning international titles, but every day we are confronted by the lack of money to keep training. There is a lot of pressure on young athletes to study and to get work when they become adults. That makes finding time for training even more difficult, because obviously they are either studying or they need to work because they can't earn any money from rowing.
Rodolfo Colazzo is currently one of Uruguay's most successful rowers. He represented Uruguay at the Olympics in Athens in 2004 and 4 years later in Beijing.
When Uruguay's rowers do well, it's celebrated and applauded, and people find out about it immediately. However, having said that, people quickly forget about our achievements. We finished 15th in Beijing, and for us, that's a major achievement, because coming 15th amongst all the world's nations, in spite of the miserly support we get from the authorities, was a major achievement. However, it wasn't acknowledged by the Uruguayan people. They just ask, didn't they win a medal? I think the local and national media are also guilty of informing the country enough about rowing or any other minority sport.
Colonia del Sacramento in the southwest of Uruguay lies opposite Buenos Aires, just across the mighty Rio de la Plata. This former Portuguese colonial town is best known for its historic quarter, which has been declared a World Heritage Site. Colonia is also home to one of the country's best rowing clubs, the Club Colonia Rowing. This is where Rodolfo Colazzo has been training since he was 11. Colazzo competes in the lightweight double sculls, and over the years he's had various partners. His most successful collaboration came when he joined forces with Emiliano Domestre. Together they won a gold medal at last year's South American Games in Colombia. Their triumph was remarkable, considering that the pair rarely trained together.
In Uruguay, we find ourselves at a major disadvantage when it comes to rowing. For example, Emiliano and I live 180 kilometers apart. To train together, we have to go either to Carmelo or to Montevideo.
Emiliano Domestre is in his final year at university in Montevideo, studying for a degree in agriculture and livestock management. He recently decided to scale back his training in order to concentrate on his studies, adding further strain to the already complicated training setup.
It was a very difficult decision. Obviously, I really wanted to stay with the team, particularly with Rodolfo Colazzo, the partner I competed with at the South American Games. There are also 2 other rowers on the team, and we were considering forming a foursome. So in that respect, it was a really hard choice for me. Some may even say that my decision was quite drastic.
Originally from Carmelo, Emiliano now trains at the Montevideo Rowing Club. The sport was introduced to the club by English railway workers in 1874, making it one of the oldest rowing institutions in South America. Rowers from the club have been responsible for most of the nation's international success, including Guillermo Douglas, who took the first of 4 Uruguayan Olympic rowing medals when he won bronze at the Los Angeles Games in 1932. National coach Ruben Scarpati, a former rower at the club himself, works here.
There's a great sporting history in Uruguay. In the past, we had a government that supported sports, that believed in physical education in schools. The government considered sports a fundamental right. We had a better investment in sport than you would receive today in the developed world. But that was back in the 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s. Nowadays, we're lagging behind.
The truth is, 60 years ago, Uruguay was a leading economic power in South America. However, today, much of that strength has eroded, and sport has borne the brunt of that economic decline. The national rowing team endeavour to meet regularly in Carmelo, where they have their base, and where they find the best rowing conditions in the country. However, Scarpati, like his athletes, is constantly travelling between venues. With Emiliano Domestri out of the picture, Scarpati needs to find a new partner for his top rower. But even when one is found, they'll have to work training sessions around Rodolfo's career as a PE teacher in Colonia.
We must remember that sometimes we can be quite selfish. As a coach, I want to get the best possible results, and sometimes I forget that the rowers are putting their livelihoods at risk. Rowing doesn't offer them anything more than sporting glory, physical well-being. But a university education will give Emiliano his future, a future for his family and a fine career. We're constantly battling with this reality. For now, Emiliano needs to be given space, and when he's ready to come back, he will.
I will definitely try to keep training, and despite the travel distance between my partner and myself, we will try to get together more often. My aim is to compete in the next Pan American Games and to make the qualifying events for the Olympics. That's our priorities right now.
With the qualifiers for the London Games on the horizon, the Uruguayan rowing team will need to unite more than ever if they're to improve upon their Olympic medal count.
Everything we do is for them, and for me as their coach, it's incredibly satisfying to see them develop into champions, and to be able to prove to everyone that we can still succeed in spite of all the barriers we face.